So we get all sorts of guys. We've had guys that have graduated from our program and gone to West Point or Baylor, and then we've had guys that have graduated from our program to hopefully finish with their GED and keep a job. And so there's a broad spectrum of skills and aptitudes, and we consider guys on every area of that spectrum successes based on their skills and aptitudes and desires. And I think what's important to know is, like, you've got to figure out, these young men have to figure out, A, what do they care about? What do they think is valuable and important? And then what are they capable of? And what mountain is it for them to climb? That's right. And mom and dad can't make that decision for you. Like, you have got to discern that and figure that out on your own. And of course, in collaboration with people in your life that you love, and, getting wise counsel and guidance. But at the end of the day, if a young man doesn't own it, he can't do it. And it's not going to amount to anything. He'll wake up 30 and miserable.
Yep. You have to choose it in order to take the ownership of it.
I laugh thinking about this because our three stories are so, different. Mm-hmm. But yeah, here we are sitting in a room talking about, what it looks like to be a man. I pursued, coming out of high school, I had the opportunity to pursue being a professional baseball player. Then out of that, it was college football, and at 25, suffer a, career-ending injury that but it did more than just end the career. It changed my life, to what I do today, And I think about your story, not the most scholar person in high school, military background, but coming full circle to what you do and your story even, right? Spending 10 years of just kind of lost. And now we're sitting here talking about how it actually looks to become a man of substance.
Yeah, and I think it's, my story can be illustrative at times, and I often tell parents, because they get really scared when we start giving kids freedom to make these choices, but I dropped out of high school. And I came from a family who my grandparents all went to college. The expectation was that I would go to college, and I dropped out of high school and was smoking pot and lost and confused, and spent the next 10 years figuring out who I was. Fortunately, my parents had enough wisdom to kind of keep me enrolled in school, and I was on the track, so to speak. But those 10 years were a disaster, but I was able to figure out who I really was and who I really wanted to be.
Because of the freedom.
But part of the deal is I did not have the guidance and the discipleship and the instruction.
That's why it took longer.
That's why it took 10 years, and it doesn't have to take 10 years. If I'd have had what the Carpenter Shed offers, I would have latched on to it, for one.
Yeah.
And for two, it would have shortened 10 years into 6 months, 12 months, who knows? It would have changed a lot.
There's something being around other men beside our parents, that I think, we always speak of being a second voice, and I always use my example. My dad was a good man. I had a great home life, great man, a father to look after, but, having my father-in-law in my life, speak, really just that, what it really looks like to be a man, that's where I really took off.
So you can hear it different.
Yeah. It sounded more real. I don't know, just different. I couldn't manipulate the situation. It was kind of like, here it is, like you either want it or not. But, at age 20, because I got married so young, that's when his voice stepped in and really started speaking to me, because, I would have been lost without that,
That second voice thing is a really important part of what we do. A lot of parents with kids, when we're having success, are like, I've been telling him this for 5, 6, 7 years. Why is he listening to you guys all of a sudden? That's part of just how adolescents are wired, especially higher functioning adolescent males. A lot of times rebellion and not listening to mom and dad is part of the deal. As a matter of fact, Puritans had a tradition in the early American colonies where, when a kid was 15, 16 years old, they would send that young man to live with a trusted relative or uncle to sort of finish raising him. He would apprentice under them, but the idea and the understanding was he's gotten what he can from our family, and he needs to hear from someone these similar values that he can actually listen to now. And I believe that's a big part of what we do.
Yeah, and I feel like another reason that they hear it from us is because we've lived it. We're not just talking out of like some book that we've read. It's like these are life experiences where, men have spoken to our life. God has really changed us, and we have something to offer them that is valuable.
Yeah. Now, I actually think that's the biggest part of why we have such success with young men, because our success rate with guys is a little crazy as far as just kind of the industry goes, and I believe the reason for that is that we live this way. Right? We're not asking guys to do things that we don't do ourselves, and we are constantly challenging ourselves to live with the same integrity and authenticity and intentionality as we're calling these guys to, and I think they see that, and I think that they're drawn to it.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I just got a text from a guy that was here, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and he's like, hey, I'm moving to Little Rock, man. I just want to know if I can come down there and hang out with you guys for a couple of days, and just these relationships, because it goes from being a resident to, you know, brotherhood. You know, and I mean, I think about how meaningful, I'm sure you can speak to this, you know, being in the military, just having that brotherhood, men that, you know, that have gone before you, that are willing to walk it with you to this day. You know, I mean, they connect with us, you know, for the rest of their lives, you know, and it's so easy to pick that relationship back up. But that speaks to the truth of who we are, and what we really offer is that brotherhood, like, look, we're here to go through anything that you need to go through. You know, we got your back. Because, I mean, there's been many times in my life, you know, I know you guys have stepped in my life, you know, and just offering that to these kids or these young boys that really, you know, more than kids become men, you know, it's huge because they don't have that at home.
Yeah, it's less about a program and more about a way of living.
But that takes time to, you know, to change over from a program to that, you know, brotherhood mentality. You got to go through something, you know, to get somewhere, you know, and
You got to cross over.
right, and it begins to make sense, you know, for these guys, because on the front end it's funny because they don't know why they're here. They don't think they should be here.
Or they're mad at mom because they're here, or
Right.
dad, or
But at some point, you know, it's funny, about 60 days in, you start seeing a subtle change. You know, you start seeing like, okay, maybe there is something to this. Maybe I need to change something about myself. And it's the debate of the Peter Pan syndrome that you always speak to, you know, that they go through.
Well, and I think that change is mainly predicated on they start to believe we are who we say we are.
I agree. Yeah, you speak to that a lot. You know, at some point you're going to have to decide, are we who we say we are?
well, it's like they're taking their time to, can they trust us, right? Because there's been, I'm sure, men and women in their life that have told them one thing and, you know, shown them something different.